So welcome to the Security Integrations section of the Cloud Adoption Framework Secure Methodology. My name is Mark Simos, Lead Cybersecurity Architect at Microsoft.
And I'm James Ringold, Chief Security Advisor at Microsoft.
So the Security Integrations section is actually, in many ways, closely related to the Risk Insights section, because the Risk Insights really focuses on how do we integrate security at that very senior level at the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, or the CIO level with the business. And this is much more focused on, okay, how do we do integration a little bit deeper in the organization with more day-to-day processes, not just simply the very highest level. So we've got a few examples that we're going to share as well. So when you look at security and how it integrates with the organization, to be honest with you, it doesn't really work well at a lot of organizations. We see a lot of challenges where there's a lot of internal conflict, and security either has a lot of power and says no a lot without really listening, or they don't have a lot of power and they pretty much get run over or ignored or skipped. So we see a lot of unhealthy behaviors within organizations. And as we get into this mode of everybody transforming at once with the business digital transformation and the technologies cloud transformation, and then the security zero trust transformation, that mode of working just simply doesn't work anymore. And so it's really important to kind of help bridge these divides and get these processes going healthy between the organizations, so that you spend more time and energy focusing on the business problems to be solved and the security threats to be protected against, and less on the internal conflict and burning the energy there.
Yeah,
James, go ahead.
The conflict and dysfunction that happens within organizations really leads to an enhanced risk or an elevated risk posture as well. You get situations where if the security team is too empowered, they prevent the business, which is a risk, right? You risk of you have a business risk then of not being able to fulfill your mission or not being able to appease your customers. At the same time, you have if you have the opposite happen, where the security team doesn't have any empowerment, they really the organization accepts risk in a more blind fashion, and there may be risks that are not acceptable that just happen and are part of business, and there's no mitigation for those risks in a cybersecurity perspective.
Absolutely. And so that's why we talk about normalized relations here, because that's really what needs to happen, is for everyone to start feeling and acting like they're on the same team throughout the organization. And that allows you to integrate the skills and bring the best of the experience and skills and backgrounds of these different teams and the expertise to each other's work and to the processes, creating that shared culture and then integrating those processes and prioritizing, in a very kind of fair, intelligent way on what is most important. And once that happens, you really get security being a business enabler. Sometimes it's enabling, and it's really being enabled compared to where it's at now is sort of the minimum just to get functional. And then it truly, as you get better and better at it, that critical eye from security can help you identify, hey, we took a look at this process. We found real bad inefficiencies when we looked at end-to-end, and you could do this a lot easier with a newer technology that happens to have a security thing, so we learned about it. So there's a lot of opportunities there to not just fix the dysfunction and enable the business, but actually to then grow from there, because there's a lot of technologies that have security application as well as a business enablement function, like decentralized identities that can be used in a business context and like that. And so the next question is, okay, how do we do this? How do we get this process started? And really, it's like you would deal with any sort of kind of conflicting groups with different goals, is shared goals and outcomes, right? Like, this is what we're on the same team, we're working on this mission. Your job is to make it happen. My job is to keep it from getting tanked by an adversary attacking it, right? And business continuity is super important. Safety, finding that common ground that both teams care about to get the conversation started. And then identifying the right level of security. And so the way we think about this is security by definition creates friction, because it's something you have to do to think about what would someone do from the outside, because you're trying to avoid something bad happening. And you want to make sure that you have a healthy level of friction, right? We don't want to break a process, but we do want to generate critical thinking. We do want to have people think about, what's a quick and easy way that I can make this more secure? How do I help this make the process stronger without breaking it? And we don't want to be spending, $1 million to save 10,000, right? So we have to be intelligent about it. So James, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, the right level of security really is one that integrates into your organization, right? One that your employees and your customers will adopt, and it's just something they do, right? Rather than have them think about it, right? And I look at this as a great experience. Coming to Microsoft was when we moved, or when I first found out and first started to leverage Windows Hello for Business, right? The ability, the performance enhancement, the wow factor of just being able to look at my computer and log in is something where it adds security, because I no longer have a password to deal with. I don't have a password that can be stolen, but just from a performance perspective. And it's something that I think we take for granted at Microsoft is, right, the wow factor of Windows Hello, because we do it so often. And it's something that is so simple, but it is very powerful, and it's reducing friction of the business. It's making them more productive. It's reducing them from having to remember one more piece of information that they're not programmed to remember, and it enhances that level of security by doing that multi-factor authentication with a conditional access and things like that.
And that's a great point. That's a case where it's actually a complete win-win-win, where everybody wins on that one, because the user gets an easier experience. IT, it takes the pain and the help desk cost off of them, of password resets and whatnot, and it's better for security. And so there are some great opportunities there. Now, we can't guarantee in all cases that security is going to make things easier. There is always a little bit of friction in many of the processes. And so the key is to just be thinking about it and working as a team, like, hey, listen, and I just want to key into something we talked about in some of the other videos, is you've got to make sure that security is seen as being responsible to be a subject matter expert, and really bringing that there. But ultimately, accountability for a particular service or outcome has to live in one person for the responsibility to be done well. They need to have the best information, the best advice from security, from IT, from the business, and then that one person needs to make that call. Because if you have someone that's accountable on, say, the business or the IT side, oftentimes the business side, that's saying, I just want speed, I want nothing but speed, and then they make decisions that are low in security, and then blame security when things go wrong, but they were the one that made the decision. That's not a healthy outcome, because you're going to end up disgruntled security people that don't want to engage, that don't want to help you, firing the CISO, and then you have to ramp up a new one. It's not a healthy dynamic. And so it's really important to recognize all the risk and all the benefits have to accrue to one person and be accountable. And that's a huge part as you think through the design of these processes, to make sure that that's understood, and that security is very much in support as a trusted advisor and enabler. But you can't make them accountable for a decision that they don't actually own.
Yeah, and this is where culture becomes a big part of security integration, right? Culture and having security be a part of how everyone in the company thinks about their job, right? Just like they would business requirements or performance or reliability, right? When we look at things from a security perspective, we also need to ensure that the security people understand business. Many times our junior analysts and our security operations people just think that all they have to worry about is if that red light starts blinking or right, the alert goes off and they have to react. But they need to understand where the critical information is for the business, what is really an important alert. And that goes all the way up from a security project manager down to the CIO or up to the CISO. They have to understand business and really understanding where things can be working together and how we can smooth those operations and share knowledge back and forth between the business and the security teams.
Completely agree. Security has to be a normal part of business, and business has to be a normal part of security. And that starts with learning and knowledge and understanding, and then building relationships and having that shared culture as a shared understanding for that. So let's take a look at a couple of examples really quickly here. So these are a couple of examples on kind of how security can integrate well. We picked, sort of some bright spots and some lessons learned and some not so bright spots that we see a lot at organizations as the first two examples here. We're going to be working to build this library over time of touch points between security and the business to really kind of help flesh that out. So the first one is something that we deal with every month, sometimes more frequently, which is security updates or patches. And what we found is a model that actually works pretty well, and it's one that you can work towards as well. So the enterprise IT and security teams distribute and require the patch, right? And they figure out which ones are important and are applicable across the environment. But you want to empower the end users and the workload owners that own those applications and servers so that they have the freedom to apply it within their own unique individual schedule as a person, as a worker, or as the owner of the application, because they truly know it best. And so the idea is to do a time bounding. So we've seen this work very well at different organizations. These are the ideal case in the numbers, the 48 hours and the 7 days for that sort of self-service period and then that grace period. It may take you a while to get there. You may have to start at 30 or 90 days, depending on where you are in your maturity and your process maturity for this. But the idea is those teams have full freedom during that period of time, and then they have a deadline. And then that once that deadline hits, because we have to make sure we constrain the risk, we can't have one team who says, I don't care, it doesn't important to me, then causing operational downtime for every other team in the organization or individuals in the organization. So we have to make sure that we are kind of managing the overall risk of sort of an infection spreading, as it were. And so that's where at the end of that grace period, which the central teams have been monitoring through that you're remediating from the center, like, hey, you had your chance, you should have done it in the period, now it's going to be done from on high. And so what we're seeing here is, obviously there's always exception processes, but we're seeing a set of different options that organizations are exercising. Some of them are force installing the patch and the reboot, right? Some of them are restricting access. So guess what? You're not patched, you don't get access to the network or to the resources. You're not compliant, and we're going to cut you off from it until you fix your stuff. And then we're also seeing in some extreme cases where, and this is a fairly rare thing in very risk-conscious organizations, where they're actually decommissioning resources and turning them off in the cloud tenants. But that's a very rare case for extremes. But we wanted to show the full range of options there. James, any thoughts from your experience?
Yeah, I mean, the security update process really illustrates how teams can work together to maximize those security goals, plus give that flexibility or discretion to users and applications to minimize their disruptions, right? In the early days of patch management, it was a hard and fast rule. You will patch by this day, we'll push it out to you, you have no choice, right? Employees would be burdened with pop-ups, you must reboot now, you have to reboot, you can't delay it. And it really was a business disrupting event. And with something like this, with this integration or the ability to have that grace period, say, you know what, we're going to publish them for you, and within the first 7 days, you can do whatever you want, right? If you want to take that at the first time it's advertised, right, go and install it. Now you're done. You don't have to worry about it when you have some downtime. But ultimately, right, this is an example of a shared responsibility, right? And it's a shared responsibility where the individuals have discretion and application owners can still meet their organizational requirements, and you're still managing that security risk, right? And there may be instances where you have to, a 0 day or you're under an imminent attack and you have to have an exception to this, and that's okay too. But this opens those lines of communications. People understand those events a lot better when it's not a critical event every single month.
Exactly. And if you have a normal, the exception is an exception from the normal instead of everything being an exception. So it's really critical to have, this is the norm, this is the expectation, and we're going to start with 90 days, and we're going to go to 30 after 6 months, and then we're going to go to 14, and then we're going to go to 7. And everybody knows, everybody's in the loop. They can provide feedback on, hey, we're having challenges with this kind of application or this kind of patch. So it's really important to keep those lines of communication open as well. So our second example is more of integration within the security organization, because we do see a number of security organizations that don't necessarily communicate well and aren't working together well from a process standpoint. And so the way that we frame this out is really two different kinds of inputs. One is from an incident that an attacker attacks, and it's an external attacker, but it's creating an internal incident to manage. And so the first step in this, obviously, is you got to respond to the threat. You've got to remediate as fast as possible to cut off the attacker access. Now, every single event is a potential learning opportunity. You may not be able to do a root cause analysis on all of them, but on the major ones you should. You should try and find those quick fixes, the things you can remediate fast. And then there may be some things that, let's take a look at this, because I think we may have some remediations that can stop this from happening in the future. And so the root cause analysis kind of has a range of timings. But then they're working with those teams. We've got them identified here, the architecture, asset protection, and governance teams, to design and implement a mitigation. Again, working together to figure out what is the best option, what's the right option. Oh, that won't work because of this. Well, what if we do one of these and upgrade that? Oh, that would work, right? So you want to have that teamwork going. And at that point, if you've gotten the actual risk and the potential future risk, you've really genuinely improved security, right? Because that potential and the realized risk are both addressed. Now, the other kind of learning, and learning from your own mistakes is smart. Learning from the mistakes of others is genius. So it's very important to learn from the external environment as well. And so this may come in the form of a new vulnerability is released. It may be a new external incident was reported, such as the Nobelium or Hafnium attacks that happen. A lot of organizations were learning from those. Or just an industry best practice came out and someone said, hey, that's a pretty good idea. These may generate one of two kinds of activities. One, we need to put a mitigation in place and go through that design process. Or, hey, we need to hunt for this to see if something may have slipped through our defenses or slipped through our detections, and proactively hunt for it. And so that sort of generates those two activities. If you don't find it, great, we didn't get attacked by these guys, awesome. Or they may find the threat and then you go through the normal process. And so this just kind of illustrates what a healthy exchange looks like among the different teams, and then who should be in these efforts to make sure that this isn't designed in an ivory tower and then the operations people say, that's not going to work, right? So we want to avoid those kind of situations and have everybody kind of buy in, offer their expertise, and really bring value to it. So James, any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, with the the approach to potential and realized risks, we look at this as a tabletop exercise for incident response many times, and making sure that you follow a process, right? Your incident response process through those tabletop exercises to really understand where all of those touch points are, right? Those types of exercises aren't just about exercising the muscle of incident response. They're also about building a team and building a cohesive approach, right? Have people understand and know how people are going to react. You're in a lower stress environment in those tabletops, so you understand that some attitudes may be a little bit different. But again, when you're under pressure, the best way to approach that is to have the team know what they're supposed to do, have the team understand their pieces. That way, when a new attack comes out, you will understand the pieces that are familiar. And that's something where we say, oh, this is a new attack. But if you look at the attack chain across the MITRE framework or any other framework, you'll see that many attacks are really very similar. They follow a same flow. They do things that are similar to what somebody else has already done. There might be some innovation in there, but for the most part, your playbook for how to respond to an event will have small changes to it rather than have it be something brand new if you exercise that muscle and your team is working together.
Completely agree. I mean, the worst time to learn that you don't have a good process for something is when there's a real live attacker in your environment. That is not when you want to be doing that learning. You'd rather do that ahead of time, fix it, and then roll with it when the real thing happens. And then, the last thought here, and there's a reason why we put this here. It seems like it might be self-evident or obvious, but we've seen many cases where people just simply forget, like, hey, we're going to hunt for these IOCs, and these indicators are compromised, but they kind of forget to tell the mitigation team to look and see if they could block it. Or the other way around, like, hey, we figured out how to block this attack. Did you check to see if they actually already used it? Right. So we see a lot of cases where this whole process isn't fully followed. So that's why we really wanted to put that out there to help folks kind of figure out how to pull this together.
And one more way to exercise this is to leverage your purple team exercises. And that's a way where your red team and your blue team working together, with the rest of IT and the business to understand how that exercise and how they should be approaching any response, because ultimately it's about improving the security posture so that those risks don't become realized.
Absolutely. And with that, that closes out our security integration section in the CAF Secure methodology. Thank you, James, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you.